As you may know, we are approaching the console release for Tannenberg on July 24th, so I thought now would be a great opportunity to look at what this game can offer and whether you should buy it. Tannenberg is developed by Black Mill Games, the developers behind Verdun, which was set on the Western Front. Tannenberg on the other hand is set on the Eastern Front and features a different but familiar gameplay style. The main game mode within Tannenberg is called Maneuver, featuring 64 players on PC and 40 players on Xbox One and PS4. The premise of this mode reflects how the real Eastern Front theatre was fought, which was much more mobile and about encircling the enemy. Teams battle it out over different capture points or sectors for tickets, similar to how a game of Conquest works in Battlefield. There are also unique sectors that can drain your enemy's tickets faster or give your team abilities to call in a recon plane or artillery. Finally, if you cut the enemy team off completely, you can charge the enemy out of the headquarters and totally annihilate them. This game mode is a lot less restrictive and less linear compared to Verdun's frontline game mode. You can traverse the terrain, capturing objectives and be aggressive, but still being mindful that if a single round strikes you, then you're back to the respawn screen. You each have a squad that you can spawn onto, and this is a squad of 4, allowing you to get back into the fighting. On top of this, you can spawn onto a friendly sector, which makes the fighting feel constant, even with the maps being relatively large. Tannenberg features 8 maps in the base game, with a new map on its way to coincide with the console release. I'll put an image of that on screen right now, so they are still supporting the game with free content drops. There are iconic weapons like the Mosin, the Martini Henry and the Gewehr. All of these feature realistic reloading. Some weapons like the Martini Henry can get you in tough situations when you're having to manually put each new bullet in the chamber, but it all adds to the overall experience. There is gas in the game, artillery, a melee system and the ability to dismember players, which adds to the grit and visceral atmosphere. The game runs on the Unity engine. I have to say it looks good graphically speaking, and I think they have captured the atmosphere and immersion very well, similar to how they did with Verdun. I found it ran smooth for me, ultra settings 1440p with little to no stuttering. I do have a high-end machine, an RTX 2080 Super and an i9 9900K, but some games I do notice some hiccups and issues, but with this it was stable and pleasant for the most part. But I can only speak for myself. I hope this could mean we see a great performing console release as well when that releases on July 24th. I didn't find myself getting caught up with what rank I was, but merely just enjoying the game for what it was. And the gameplay is great fun, it's satisfying and very punishing. Bayonet charging people, shooting multiple enemies, watching them drop with one shot is exhilarating. I find that the game is well polished, they have the setting nailed down. It's one of those games that you can pick up and play for a few hours and have a great experience. And when you can find a game that's full of real players, that's where it shines and subsequently you get the best experience. The bots aren't terrible, but the gameplay is much more challenging with real players as you would expect. Bots are there to fill up the game whilst you wait for more real players. I have to admit I'm glad that they added this feature just because the game is struggling with its player count. So having bots there is better than having no one in the server at all. This is the point of the video where I want to talk about the biggest problem and address the console community. My issues for the most part doesn't stem from the actual game itself. I think a lot of people feel the same way. If you look at the Steam reviews, it's at 90% rating, so people like the game, but most complain about how hard it is to find a full match. Tannenberg has a small community. It's a shame because this game deserves more people. It's well priced at around $20 for all the weapons, different factions, all the maps, night and day versions, great atmosphere, and Maneuver, a high octane mode. In my opinion, it's well worth the purchase, especially if you can grab it on a sale. But the issue is, it can't retain enough players. It seems to have a community of around 100 players that seem to come back and play, but I'm not entirely sure why it doesn't have a bit more. Its pacing is similar to Insurgency Sandstorm, it's hardcore, and it has developers who continue to support it without asking for any more money, no microtransactions, absolutely nothing, which is refreshing when you're seeing even indie games like Sandstorm ask for paid cosmetics. Could the low player count be because the game doesn't really give players a reason to come back? You don't have to grind towards anything, and the ranking system doesn't have any intrinsic value. But I also think it's because people haven't given the game a chance. The all-time peak on Steam is 1,139. That's the most amount of players that have been on this game at one time. That's quite low. Even smaller than Verdun's all-time peak of 4,504. So maybe this game needs a bit more exposure, and hopefully in this video you're getting to see what the game can offer. That leads me to a message I want to send out to the console players. There is not many hardcore shooters on the console platform that require you to be careful, and a game that is 100% historically accurate with its portrayal of the setting. Plus, a big bonus is it's cheap compared to more mainstream games. Granted, it doesn't have as much depth or content, but the content they have here I think is enjoyable. And it pains me to see a game doing things right, but getting virtually no attention. I would love to see the console community show support to this indie development team. If we want to see more realistic shooters come to console, we have to support them. Let's hope that we can show that there is a community for these more hardcore shooters. I would recommend this game to anyone, whether you're on PC or console, especially if you want to immerse yourself in an Eastern Front World War I first-person shooter that's interesting to play and doesn't require you to stay rooted in a trench. As always, let me know what you think of Tannenberg. Will you be looking to buy this game or steering away from it? Make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe, click that bell notification. That's important so that you don't miss out on an upload. And until next time, have a good one.